Let's give a warm welcome to our newest Congressman, Keith Rothfus. Keith?
Thank you. It's my first time up here. I can't see anybody with these lights. Thank you, Mr. Anton. Thank you, the conference. Thank you, grassroots activists. Thank you, Lohman, the sponsors of the event. It's a real privilege for me to be here. It's been just over 100 days that I've been there, and yes, it's quite a challenge. I was the 13th GOP congressman for Pennsylvania into the 113th Congress, and I was sworn in on 1/3/13. Gosh, good thing I'm not superstitious. Like everybody in this room, I was crushed at the election. I knew with all my heart that Romney was going to win that thing. You know, me, I thought I was a 50-50, that it was competitive. But I had really thought that when I was going to be going down to Washington that we'd be working on doing a corporate turnaround to get the country back on track. I ran on a campaign where I talked about we needed to relight America, and that big government, and President Obama's big government coming out of Washington was turning the lights off. They were turning the lights off on our nation's fiscal health, at our doctors' offices, at our small businesses and manufacturers, literally turning off the lights at our power plants and in our coal mines. They even found a way to turn off the lights at our faith-based organizations. Unfortunately, he was reelected, and he still got his finger on that off button. But we, the minority party in Washington, were pushing back. It's been a tough few months, but we've had some successes. We're holding the line on spending. We passed a budget the House passed a budget that balances in 10 years, and we forced the Senate for the first time in 4 years to pass a budget with the No Budget, No Pay Act. One thing I think I would really like you to remember as we head into this year and the next year, there's one thing President Obama wants. He wants Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House again. He was out in San Francisco a couple weeks ago raising $3 million for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. He's got 7 more of those fundraisers planned. The Republican House right now is what stands in the way of him consolidating his effort to transform our country. He also wants us to be taking shots at each other. He wants a civil war within the GOP so that we're not focusing on what he's doing. One of the most remarkable days for me over the past 3 months was March 6th. I was out having dinner with a friend, a colleague in the House, and then I got a text from somebody about this guy from Kentucky who was on the Senate floor asking a simple question of the president. Does the president believe that he has the authority to carry out a lethal strike by a drone against an American on an American soil when that person's not a combatant? So I thought I'd go see what's going on. I went over to the Senate. Senator Rand Paul was there standing. He was into his 7th hour of his filibuster. Senator Mike Lee from Utah was there. They're going back and forth, and there were a couple members of the House. And I couldn't believe how fortunate I was to be able to watch this little bit of history. So I immediately started texting people and encouraging people to come over. By the end of the night, we had 15 House conservatives standing with Rand. And we had a number of other folks. Senator Ted Cruz showed up. If you haven't heard, if you haven't seen it yet, you really have to watch Senator Cruz's performance on YouTube. It was really remarkable. Mike Lee, solid constitutional conservative from Utah, Marco Rubio, Jeff Flake, and Senator Toomey. I was proud to stand with Rand. I got there at 7:30, and I resolved not to sit until Rand could sit, because you can't sit if you're Philip. They don't let you sit. They don't let you go to the bathroom. They don't let you off the floor. So I said, if he's standing there, then I can stand there. And I stood there till 12:30 after the remarkable marathon, and again stood with my fellow House conservatives and stood with Senator Toomey and the other conservatives. And when Pat had the chance to speak, he applauded Rand's challenge to the president of whether he had that authority to strike down an American citizen. And Pat said, and if we can't get a direct answer to that question, then I, Pat, have to say I think the senator from Kentucky is performing an important service in putting a spotlight on this. And I commend him for doing it, and I thank him for doing it. These indeed are tough times for our country. We've got a president who's trying to fundamentally transform us, and he's got Harry Reid and a Democratic majority in the Senate who's doing it too. We're in the House, we're trying to hold him back, but the Senate, the minority in the Senate, with guys like Pat, they're trying to do it too. Pat's leading the fight with Ted Cruz to defund Obamacare. He's fighting with Marco Rubio to repeal the HHS mandate that violates religious liberties. He's fighting to repeal one of the most odious parts of Obamacare called the Independent Payment Advisory Board that empowers bureaucrats and not doctors and patients. He's continuing to fight for a balanced budget, and he's in the trenches with Senator Cruz and Senator Lee and Senator Paul and Senator Flake. You know, he's been fighting overspending and overregulating since the 1990s. And like a lot of you, I got to learn about Pat in 2004 when he challenged the establishment. And it was great to see him step up again in 2010 when he challenged it again. Pat ran from the outside. He's trying to bring his private sector experience, and he wanted to bring that experience to government. I, too, came from the private sector, from outside the party apparatus. I had a very tough race in 2010. The early months were especially tough, but the grassroots were there. And thank you to those in this room who were there. But there are very few at the leadership level who came forward to help me. One of them was Pat Toomey. It's my privilege to introduce my friend, the junior senator from Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey.